Tata, I was just wondering, Babuji was from the north and our family is from the south. How did Sajma come into our family?
Well, it's a strange thing, My father, your grandfather, your great grandfather, was interested in homeopathy. He used to work in Calcutta during the war years, and there he picked up homeopathy. And in Madras, we had one Mr. Veeraravan, who was also a homeopath. So they used to get together quite often. We came into Gayatri on 11 September 62, 9/11, according to US. And Veeraravan and he somehow became friends. So he used to come to discuss homeopathy and all sorts of things. He was much younger than my father. And one day he looked at the books I had and he said, "You are reading so much about all these things, why don't you do something?" I said, "Well, I am doing something but on my own because I have not been able to find anybody to guide me." He said, "I have somebody who is our guide. If you like, you can do it." But he never mentioned anything more. Actually, a couple of weeks later, Babuji has come to Madras and gone without our knowing it. Next year, he mentioned that his guru is again there. And that year also we missed. Because what is guru? We thought it's another Vaishnava saint or not saint, Pujari or priest or something. And he also made a mistake of telling us after Babuji had come and gone. He only stayed a day or two. Because only Veeraravan and another person are Abhyasis. Then third year, he told me this is coming on such and such a day. Then we went. But in the meantime, we started meditation. It was on Basant Panchami day in 1964. My father started meditation with Veeraravan, who had just been made a preceptor. I had to go to Bombay. I went on duty and came back, I think, a week later. Then I started. But even though my father was my senior by a week, I saw Babuji first because I went to North India to Bareilly. And Shahjahanpur is just, I think, 50 miles from there, further east. So I went and met Babuji Maharaj, and that is how we started Sajmarg first and then met Babuji. And I'm happy to say you are the fourth generation of Abhyasis in our family. Starting with my father was number one, first generation. Kodand, my brother, myself, we are second generation. Krishna, Narayan, they are all the third generation. You are the fourth generation. It is still the only family in the world with 4 generations of Saj Margis, our family. You see? That's something I'm very happy about. Not for myself, but that my succeeding generations have also come into it. And hopefully the next generation will also follow, see? In Tamil we say Vazhai Adi Vazhai, meaning below the banana plant grows the next banana plant. Vazhai Adi Vazhai. So Talamore after Talamore, family, what you call generation after generation. It should follow like that. That was Babuji's hope, expectation and blessings. Anything else?
Okay.
You see, we've come from a background of agriculturists like this, although we are Brahmins. My paternal grandfather, we are in Trichy district now, just beyond the fence at the other end of the association, what they call colony, Pudukkottai district starts. We are at the edge of Trichy district, and if you go a little south, Pudukkottai district. My grandfather was in Pudukkottai. He was a professor of chemistry in the Maharaja's College, which I believe is still there and still going strong. And they were all very orthodox according to the Vaishnava traditions. On my mother's side, my grandfather was an agriculture. He was a government officer, but he had big estates near Mayavaram, which is about what, 3 hours from here, 4 hours from here by road. So I used to go there. My paternal grandfather died when my father was 14. When my father was 9. He passed away in 1914. My father was born in 1905. My uncle Chakra's father, Bhaktu, was just been born when Chakrapani Engar, as he was called, passed away. So in his memory only Chakra is called Chakrapani. So we are a blend of the intellectual, highly traditional Vaishnavite agriculture. That's why we have this small farm here for ourselves to combine everything here. And my mother's statue you will see later. Her name was given to this farm in her honor because she bore me. So I thought I should honor her memory. No, unfortunately, nobody honors the fathers. No. I don't know why. It's only the mother we always remember. And that is also in our Vedic tradition. Matra Devo Bhava comes first. May you look upon your mother as divine. Then Pitra Devo Bhava. See, then Acharya Devo Bhava. Then Atithi Devo Bhava. See. So this was named in honor of my mother. So that is how we are known. Like the salmon which goes back from the ocean to the place of its birth to spawn. After wandering around the world, doing so many things, we are back with our old traditional way of life, combining Sahaj Marg, which has evolved out of religion, beyond religion, not out of, beyond religion, and combining it to the sort of agricultural life, which is peaceful, where you can eat fresh things. Today's banana plucked from the plant and eaten just then. Today's banana raw cut from the tree, plant and cooked. Today's ladies' fingers cooked. Fresh milk from our own cows, no pasteurization, no. So this you can't get in city life. So we combine the best of two worlds, the spiritual and the material. And Sahaj Marg says a bird flies on two wings, spiritual and material. So we have, in a sense, we are combining that here. And I hope all of you will stick to this tradition because you are still too young for me to say anything with conviction that she will be like this. Every tradition, every established way of life, we have to preserve. Traditions are not preserved by themselves. You see, like fruit is not preserved by itself. You have to make a jam out of it or pickle it. That's why they're called preserves in English. So tradition has to be protected and preserved by us. But language and beauty has to be preserved by us. Culture has to be preserved by us. And our inner spiritual life has to be preserved by us. So nothing survives in this world unless we preserve it. You understand? That is why we start this Vedic training in our old traditional way from the age of 7. It is called Garbhashtakam. The child spends 1 year in its mother's belly and comes out. So that is taken as the first year of its life. Garbhashtakam means 8th year. So all these literature, Sanskrit literature, Vedic tradition, they are begun when the child is 7. Veda Parayanam should start there. Upanayanam is there at age 7. So, see, tradition, of course, there are people who say, well, then there's never any change. But we have seen how we have changed by only changing our clothes. Sahaj Marg has not thrown anything away except the outward trappings of religion, the traditional, nuances and systems and worship. But that tradition also says in the Bhagavad Gita, you worship me inside your heart. You don't have to go to temples, isn't it? So how we have preserved it is we have preserved the seed. It's like a man traveling and he carries a packet of seeds to sow in the next house he will buy. He doesn't carry trees around with him. See? When we carry religion with us from generation to generation, we are carrying trees, and of course they are dead. Seeds never die. Seeds have no life. The life is inside. They don't rot if you keep them dry. Tutankhamun's tomb,
Yeah.
they had seeds 4,000 years old. And when they were planted, they grew, they sprouted. Life is always dormant. That is the power of nature, that it is able to preserve in seed form what we are trying to preserve in gross form. Every idea of protecting life, culture, tradition, language, anything, is we are applying it to the gross, whereas nature applies it to the subtlest. It preserves the seeds, we preserve the trees. And of course, when you cut down the trees, you cut down the possibility of future seeds. That is why it is also necessary to preserve this until we have enough seeds. Then, they can go. So, Sahaj Marg is implanted in bija, you see, as Babaji used to say. Bija means seed in Sanskrit. So, the first transmission that we receive from the Master is the transmission which is planted in the heart and which awakens that tiny divine light, see, which is called the, what do you call it? Divine light. Ishwariya. So it is not lit again, because it's always, if it was not there, we would not be alive. It is just, like when in the old way, when we used to live in village houses, we had these kerosene lamps. At night, we would bring down to the lowest where they are still lit and leave them. So that at night, if you wanted to go out, you just pulled up the wick a little and it gave you bright light. So this light is like that. Through generations of human beings in the same family, it goes on and on. One day there is this divya sparsha or divine touch, and that light comes up again. Then it goes by itself. That is how divinization is the process in Sahaj Marg. And then every time we give, further transmissions, it makes that divine light a little stronger and stronger until it illuminates from within. That is how the halo has come into being represented, you see, around saintly heads. They always know this like a full moon. That is called the halo. So, if that lamp is never brightened again, being divine, it cannot go out. Nobody can put it out. That is why we say every human heart has some divinity in it, even if he is the most hardened criminal. And it only needs a divine touch to awaken it, and the criminal becomes a saint. That is the Sahaj Marg tradition. What, Madhava, any questions from you?
No, Master. Wanted to ask you, you were narrating about your paternal grandparents, the farm that they had, huge farm, and you were growing up, and your memories of the farm, anything else that you want to share?
Early life, everything, all the bonding takes place. Why a man says at 60 that his mother's cooking was the best? It need not have been factually the best, but for him it was the best. Because he is bonded with his mother from childhood, from babyhood, from the day of birth. So mother tongue, the language in which she speaks to him. Suppose there is an intermarriage between a Tamilian and a Telugu, and the mother is a Tamil. The child's mother tongue will definitely be Tamil, however much the father may try to convert it. Because that is the mother tongue. That's what the child has learned to love, to trust. Trust is a great thing in preserving. You don't preserve something which you don't trust. Preserve this book, you won't say, of a James Bond novel. Because it is read once and thrown away. But preserve this dictionary because you need it all the time for reference. Preserve this Bible because it is forever. Nobody throws away a Bible or a dictionary. But James Bond novels, you read and leave it behind on the plane if you are on a flight. Who's to carry that dead weight around? You see? So when we read the same thing again and again, and people have trusted it from generation to generation, it becomes historical, it becomes factual, it becomes myth, it becomes mythology, it becomes tradition. So now you find in the Mosaic tradition how Moses led the people out of Egypt. Okay, that is credible, that is scientific. But that he parted the ocean to let his people go out of slavery, it's a bit difficult to swallow unless you are a Jew. The Jews implicitly believe in it. Why? Because it's their tradition. And only an unbeliever disbelieves tradition. So unbelievers are not unbelievers because they are unbelievers, because they fight tradition. You understand? And those who are not in that tradition automatically disbelieve. For them it's not rational, not scientific, so many things, you see. So with Sahaj Mark too, when people say, oh, I don't believe this transmission, what is it you transmit? Oh, the master says, oh, it is transformation is the change of something, making a new form where it was, you see. And there's a big deal. How do you do it? He says transmission. What is transmission? Utilization of divine energy for the transformation of man. You are answering one question with another answer which will be questioned again. Yeah, but what is divine energy? So you see, when you don't belong to the tradition, you keep on asking questions. And by repeatedly asking questions, you believe less and less of what you are told and more of what you doubt. You follow? Every question you ask hardens your unbelief or disbelief. And every time you resist the question and accept what is said, your belief is strengthened more and more. So to ask too many questions is as if it is weakening your will to accept. So Babuji did not advise questions except vital questions, as I keep telling everybody, Why vital questions? What are vital questions? If you ask, does God exist? It's a foolish question. Vivekananda asked it from his master Ramakrishna. And Ramakrishna said, yes. He is as visible to me as you are. I can touch him like I touch you. Then Vivekananda is said to have asked, can you show me? And Ramakrishna just put his big toe on his heart, on his heart. And the world attained illumination. But then Swami Ramakrishna Paramahamsa says, I will take this back. It is locked up in a safe for you. You shall not have it during your lifetime. Because you have come not for pleasure, even spiritual, but to work for the divine. And Vivekananda bewails his fate, you see, that having got this, I have lost it again. So Paramahamsa says, you have not lost it, my son. It is there waiting for you. When your work is over and you are released from this earth, you will attain that condition instantly. That is what Babuji Maharaj calls approach. Your approach to Brahmanda or your approach to Parabrahmanda. It's like buying a ticket today for travel next year. I have the approach, which means I have the possibility. I have it in my hand. Now, if we change our plans in between, I may not use the ticket again, you see. Same thing happens. What we call dangers of fall are nothing but changes we create without his will. And we say, oh, well, he has locked up that condition for me. And then we start leading a new life, different from our prescription. It's like a doctor says, you have 20 doses of this, you are cured, no cancer. And the patient says, oh, wonderful, and leaves the medicine and starts whatever it was, smoking, whatever, see, and dies. And the patient says, but you said I would leave. He said, yes, I told you to stick to the medicine. You have forgotten it, no? How can I say anything now? So it remains locked up. The approach is still there, and then you are given another lifetime to try to come back to that path. See? So future lifetimes are ours only because we have decided like that. I am always wanting to tell people that God has nothing to do with this. There is no punishing God or, what you call, giving God. We punish ourselves, we reward ourselves by our thoughts, by our actions. And God is there waiting. See, when will the Son of Man return? That is why in Christianity you have the return of the prodigal son. And for him, the fattened calf is killed and cooked. He's given a new coat. He's received with embraces and kisses. And another brother is jealous. He says, I have served you faithfully at home, father, and I get nothing. He says, my son, you had me all along. He lost me. Should I not welcome him back? So you see, this prodigal son return is a great event. And we too are like that. Suppose a child is lost coming home from school, and 8 hours later you find it. How much you hug and kiss that child and make much of it. And the child at home says, well, I never get a welcome like this. But then we say, you are never lost. Thank heavens, you say. And the child says foolishly, I wish I were. Then I would also get a hug and a lot of kisses and a new coat. You understand? So the idea is not to get lost. To be with the Father is the greatest blessing. Not to have something from Him. That within a perimeter of, say, 100 yards around that, there was no rain. Can you believe it? Aurobindo had his ashram and he was in his room facing the ocean. It is said that even in the stormiest weather, his window used to be open and no rain would come in. Now you have these beautiful things in the malls in Europe and in the US, A straight curtain of air, hot air, which keeps the outside air from coming inside. This everybody believes because it is there, I see it, I perceive the heat. I hear the blow, it ruffles my hair. Therefore it is real. So for human beings, reality is what is perceivable by their 5 senses. But for the sage who doesn't trust his 5 senses and yet sees there's no wind blowing into Aurobindo's room or rain coming in, he perceives the unperceivable. He knows it is there, though he cannot see it, by the effect. So in the Indian philosophy, we assess things by the effect rather than by the cause. Western philosophy depends on cause and effect. Cause is first, effect is second. We have the cause, but we don't need the effect. Because when no effect is visible, perceivable, accountable, there can be one effect, only one cause, and that is the original cause. So we deduce this original cause from no cause in this knowledge that there has to be a cause, though I don't see it. See? And that cause can only be Him. You see how easy it is, how easily it is explained. So the Westerners, Western philosophy, Western science needs not only the 5 senses, but an acceptable cause. We have a cause which is acceptable. They want an acceptable cause. Invertendo. I gave you one example the other day. This is the second example of invertendo. I have an acceptable cause. They want a cause which is acceptable. Acceptable by the intellect because of the sensory confirmation that that has or that gives. So what more to say of Sajmarg? And this is the tradition you have inherited in the 4th generation.
Master, I have 2 questions. The first one is, this is Janaki Farms, and we have not really heard about your mother that much. What memories you have of her, if any, and how it influenced your life.
Well, it's a funny thing, but I was about 5 or a little more when my mother died. I have no memory of her at all. It is as if even at that age, I pushed back all memory, out of a feeling of self-protection, because Those memories were too hard to handle, perhaps. I have absolutely no memory of it.
But you have had some contact with her through whispers, though.
Yes, that's it. But that is in my 79th year. So in between, zero. Only, the affection that one feels, having seen or not seen, it doesn't matter.
Now, so the second question I have is one related to, you said earlier that when you come, you have to choose between the father, when you come to the father. For most of us aspirants, when is enough enough in the material world, Master?
I always tell people to read that story, Leo Tolstoy's How Much Land Does a Man Require? If we always remember that where we are going, we need nothing. We would try to do with the minimum here. Because however much you may amass, whether wealth or intelligence or whatever knowledge, everything is going to remain here. And what is it that we are hoarding all this for, amassing and hoarding? I told you the other day that Babuji said, even your body you are going to leave. You are a tenant in this body. No? That's why we preserve it, we protect it, we enhance it in so many ways, strengthening, beautification, cleanliness, so on and so forth. None of which should really matter. No? Because what goes up is nothing of these. Then what am I going on amassing crores and hundreds of crores and thousands of crores? A Rockefeller there, a Ford. It's all right to invent, because that is a question of the genius of the mind. It's all right to grow things, own farms, you see, but not to amass, go on adding. Then it becomes like that fellow in Tolstoy's novel. The man runs round and round more and more and falls dead by the time he comes back to the hat at sunset. He has really owned nothing. So that is to teach us that however much you may really own, you own nothing, because when you leave, that's it. Those 1,000 acres, 5,000 acres are no more yours, which means they never were, because they depended on your being here to be yours. So we must have this wisdom to think, it is mine only when I am here. So how does it matter whether it's mine or not? That's why Babuji said it's better to have rich friends than be rich yourself. I can come anywhere I like, whether it is your palace or his bungalow. And I am like you because I am your friend. I enjoy your food, I enjoy your bed, I enjoy your bathroom. Nothing is mine. So Babuji said, live in your own house as a guest, which only means don't think this is mine. Follow. So that is the best way of conducting life. Live as if you own nothing. Wisdom, live as if you are going to die the next moment. Service, do as much as you can while you are yet here. For others, not for yourself. No? Three principles which make life not only clear, easy and happy, but also a life of service to others. So as for my mother, one does not worry about what remembering or not. There have been children after giving birth. They never saw her. But yet that love for the mother is strong. Stronger than love for any. I should say part of human nature. Designed it to be so. That one never forgets a mother. Whether one has seen her or not, lived with her or not, it doesn't matter. Whereas for every other relationship, you need knowledge, you need experience, and you need continuation of that experience as much as possible in our lives, so that those memories are strengthened. Now you find, a boy of 18 moves away to America. In a few years, he doesn't know his cousins, he doesn't know his, father and mother knows. If he lives 20 years and doesn't come back to India, when he comes after 20 years, he can't recognize his father, he can't recognize his mother, though the mother will recognize. That is what happens in the Mahabharata, when the children come back, when they say, let us see if our mothers will recognize us. Which mother will not recognize her child? Whereas in the animal kingdom, when the kids are born, in the Wild West in the old days, buffaloes, they used to roam America in the millions. And the calf were born on the run. And if that calf couldn't stand on its own feet, in 2 minutes it was dead. And within those 2 minutes it had to stand up and be able to run with its mother and feed on the run. And that was the bonding. And that calf could recognize its mother from 10,000 buffaloes, she buffaloes. There the inverted noise, the child has to remember, you see, for its own safety, for its own continuity in life. Here the child doesn't know. You wean it away from the mother and put it with a, what they call, what do they call one? Huh? Ah. And they think that's the mother. So human nature is different. But yet that initial contact is what the psychologists call bonding, you see. And recently they have found that it is nothing to do with this sense of smell or food or anything. It's the heartbeat. See. The child held close to the mother's heart, dum 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 dum, which almost seems to mean that it is the sign of its parentage. You put your, and this is my mother. And perhaps in some way our own heartbeat reflects that of the mother, and so through that we know the mother more than through the physical relationship. I don't know this, whether this is clinically true or psychologically true, but what is psychology except intuitively gathered knowledge? I mean, you have dreams and you prepare to analyze them and you see some dreams recurring again and again, and you say, well, this is the reason. Or like those dreams of Joseph, 7 lean years and 7 fat years. That was wisdom speaking, you see. That a dream represents some aspect of reality. So a reading is always something interpreted through the medium of your reasoning abilities, which means you must have the wisdom to reason correctly and associate cause and effect properly.
Master, in the spiritual arena, an aspirant can really never be away from the guru, even though they may go off the path a little bit. Is that correct?
Well, we are never away from the master, taking God as the master. Wherever we are, he is with us whether we want him or not. That's one problem for most people who want to follow a wrong path. There's a famous short poem, The Hound of God. This is a fellow woodcutter who goes into the forest every day and he wants to be with God. That is his yearning. And one day he hears footsteps behind him. Being alone in the jungle, he is afraid. He walks faster and the steps follow faster. He runs and the steps run after him. And finally he collapses because of fatigue and falls. And then he sees the divine presence. He says, my son, you have been running away all your life from me. He says, but I was now running towards you. God says, you are running in the wrong direction. I was always there, yet you are always going away from me, thinking you are looking for me. Where was the need to look? And as Babuji said, if you had just turned around, you would have found me. And he says, God, why did you not tell me? He said, when I just followed you, you got afraid. If you could have heard me, what would you have done? No. So it is until you are elevated to a position where you can perceive God and not be afraid, Because again and again in the Bible you find a reference to something and they hide their faces, you see, whether it's shame or guilt or fear. When you hide your face, it's either for shame or for guilt or because of fear. There's no fourth reason. So ipso facto, if anybody is there and he doesn't want to see you and he sees you coming and moves away, then one of these three factors in him, surely. No, no, sir, I just turned away because I didn't want to bother you. Lie. See? I mean, you don't need to be a spiritual giant. I can tell you what everybody thinks just by looking at them. This morning, I told Sujata. She was astonished. There's nothing to it. It just comes out, you know. So they speak of saints telling only the truth. They don't tell the truth or the lie or anything. They open their mouths and the truth comes out. Like you open the tap and water comes out. You know. It's as simple as that. That's why Babuji said, our priests and our teachers have complicated the whole thing about God. They have written volumes about it when one word would have been enough. Exists. What exists? No answer. Why? Because everything that exists is He. Is this true God? Yes. That also, yes. And this mud, yes, of course. If that was not God, you wouldn't be able to stand on it. So, existence. Does He know I'm here? Of course He does. Do these trees know? Of course. If they see you coming with the intent to cut down, they react. So without God in the mouth, they know. So existence, consciousness. And yet bliss because everything is happy except the human being. Why is he unhappy? Because he has desires. What are these desires? However much they are fulfilled, there is still a great deal unfulfilled. It is like a pot which you go on filling and which is never full. So there is no bliss in human life. There is existence, there is consciousness, no bliss. Therefore, we are always saying towards bliss. Where they are with God eternally, we have to be with God now consciously, knowingly, and with effort. That is where yoga comes in to link us back to divinity, you see. For having strayed from the divine realm, lost that bliss of being together, is like a child which wanders in the fair and is weeping inconsolably because it has lost its mother. The mother is there, the child is there. She is weeping, he is weeping. See? So existence, consciousness, Sat, Chit, Ananda we don't have. So the Vedas, the Upanishads go up to Anandam Brahmeti Vejanat, no Anandam to be Brahman. Babuji said, yes, but what beyond? There must be something beyond bliss. Because everything is eternal, everything is infinite. You cannot stop at a particular stage and say, now you have reached the end. See, evolution, whether divine or material, has no end. You cannot say, I have produced the best the camera. Next day you will produce something better. You may be able to produce a camera without a lens. You may make yourself the camera and look and blink and it's taken. You know, because you are touching a circuit which records. The human being becomes a camera. Who knows? It is not impossible. So you see, whether it is science or philosophy, there is no end to anything. And there was never really any beginning to anything either. What was man before? Darwin says he must have been a monkey. We don't like it. Before that, well, he was a vertebrate. Before that, he was an amphibian. Before that, he was in the sea. Before that, he was the mollusk. Before that, he was the ooze, primeval ooze. And before that, we don't know. God is like that. Anadi, Anantam. No beginning, no end. See? What was God before? Suppose your son asks you. Well, my son, God could not have been anything else because he was always God. Come on, Dad, everybody has to be something before, to be something now. This was a seed, now it is a tree. And then you say, okay, says, what was the seed before? Well, Daddy, it was the fruit in the tree. And before that, when there was no fruit, but Dad, it has to be there because it grew from, it could not have come from nowhere. That nowhere is divine. See? So from nothing it comes into being and goes back into nothingness. That is again the idea of life, of the evolving life. And quantum science says they seem to come into existence and disappear. Here science and spirituality think alike, but yet this is science and this is spirituality. For the scientist.
For argument's sake.
For us it's all the same. How do you know? They say, well, we see it on the, the trails on the camera plates, these particles leave behind. How are they made? Oh, in the cyclotrons. Collision of particles. How do you know they collide? Well, there's the evidence on the camera plate. How do you know this is right? For heaven's sake, Chariji, it's science, man. It has to happen. We programmed it. Yes, but in my quantum field, people come and go. What do you mean? Well, child was born. Where was it earlier? Science says in its mother's belly. How did it get there? They give you all this crap about conception and, the egg and the sperm. What was the life and where was it? Was it in the egg or was it in the sperm? Well, Chariji, two things have to come together to produce the third. Wonderful science. So there is this eternal and I'm sure unending problem between science and spirituality. Because they believe in the invisible, but yet that invisible, if it did not leave a trace somewhere, they would not know. And they have the idea that some of these particles are moving backwards in time. But yet they scoff at science fiction, see? Because it is science but fiction. So these, the quarrel between diverging thoughts, diverging philosophies will go on perennially. I don't see them meeting, except at some future, maybe millennium, when they will say, yes, this is what we have all been talking about. Only thing, you called it science, I called it spirituality. It was both and it was neither. So Babuji says, is God Dvaita or Advaita? He says he can be what he wants when he wants. He can achieve a form if he wants it. He can remain invisible and unseen if he wants it. So he's either Dvaita or what did I say? Advaita, depending on what he wants. Yes, but how can you do that, Chariji? How can then, how? It's not possible. Yes, but you have this split window experiment where it can go through this split or this split window. How do you decide where it goes? Yes, but that is random. Do you think it's really random? Well, come to think of it, no, actually, but there's no explanation. That is God. You mean to say God is sitting guiding these particles into where they should be going? Well, you have no explanation, but I have at least some explanation. Why don't you accept it? But it is irrational, Chariji. Gone. Science wins, spirituality loses. Though science has not won anything. You see? So this is how it goes. Anything else?
No.
Okay, thank you.